10 on Sports Central will be going over a college football game preview and prediction on one of the big matchups coming up in the Big Ten in Week 10 of this 2020 season, and that's going to be between Michigan and Indiana. And the Hoosiers are currently looking like a top 3 team in the Big Ten right now. Michael Penix at quarterback, and this Indiana offense is looking great. And in general, this team is looking like a possible dark horse contender this season. Meanwhile, for Michigan, they lost to Michigan State last week. Bad loss for them, and they are currently on the edge of being out of the rankings. So this is going to be a big matchup for both these teams moving forward, especially in the Big Ten East, and we'll be going over a full preview and prediction on this matchup here today, starting out with your team trends. Last week, Michigan lost to Michigan State 24-27 was their final score there, and then Indiana beat Rutgers 37-21. So obviously, Indiana and Rutgers, that was a somewhat close matchup considering what the skill level of Rutgers is thought to be. But then again, if you think about it, Rutgers did beat Michigan State in the first week of the Big Ten being back, and Michigan State just beat Michigan. So Rutgers honestly is not looking like too bad of a team right now. And so for Indiana to win against them is still a good win for Indiana. As far as the winning streaks go for both of these teams, Michigan is currently on a 1-game losing streak after losing to Michigan State once again. And Indiana is 2-0 after beating their first 2 opponents. They've got a 2-game winning streak. Michigan is ranked 23rd. Indiana is ranked 13th heading into this matchup. So Indiana being ranked as high as they are is actually really impressive. I think that's the highest they've been ranked in quite a while. Game's going to be on Saturday, November 7th, Newton Eastern in Bloomington, Indiana. So the Hoosiers will be your home team here. Spread currently says Michigan by 3.5. ESPN FPI disagrees, going with Indiana 57%. And the Vegas prediction has Michigan here 27-16. So the Vegas prediction is actually going with Michigan pretty heavily here, especially considering Indiana is ranked 10 spots above them right now. And Indiana also is 2-0 and looking really good. So it's kind of weird considering that. But then again, this is still pretty early on in the week, so we could see these numbers shift a little bit, but still, this is what we're expecting right now. Here's just stat comparison for this game. Both teams have 36 points per game. However, Michigan allows 25 points per game and then 28 points allowed per game for Indiana on their side. So obviously, this is only through 2 games, so this is bound to change as the season goes on. But this is just an early look at your averages. Michigan's got 252 pass yards a game, 204 rush yards. So the rushing game for Michigan has actually been really good so far. Something to note there. And then for yards allowed, Michigan's got 206 pass yards and then 127 rush yards. So on the defensive side, Michigan is looking halfway decent. But, if you could keep both of those numbers under 200, that would certainly be very good and very beneficial moving forward. As for Indiana, they got 36 points per game, 28 points allowed once again. They got 204 pass yards a game, which obviously Michael Penix at quarterback has been playing very well so far. He's not really been having a big interception issue, which is huge for any team. And obviously Michael Penix last season when he was in was a great quarterback, and this season he was looking to be a dark horse top quarterback in the Big Ten, which so far I'd say he's definitely been a top quarterback in the conference. And they also have 73 rush yards a game, so Indiana is not much of a rushing team so far. They're relying on the passing game quite a bit, but that's kind of expected. As for yards allowed, they've allowed under 200 yards for both areas here, 181 pass yards and then 186 rush yards. Here's your key points for this one. Michigan has had 2 very different games so far, no doubt on that. Michigan absolutely blew out Minnesota in the first game of the Big Ten being back, which that was a huge win. I thought Michigan could have been for real, honestly, after a win like that. They won in convincing fashion against Minnesota, and that got completely shut down after they lost to Michigan State last week. But Michigan, I definitely think, is still a team that has potential to have a good season. It's just you can't take losses like that to Michigan State if you're wanting to be a national contender. And that's something that Jim Harbaugh has had so much trouble with over the years, is he just cannot beat Michigan State or Ohio State. The 2 rivals, the 2 rival teams, he just can't, he's not been able to beat them. And that's something that I think is definitely really concerning moving forward for Michigan and Jim Harbaugh, is that Jim Harbaugh just can't win the big games. And I think Jim Harbaugh is definitely on the hot seat, I would say, after that loss against the Spartans. And if they lose this game too against Indiana, you're going to hear some talk about Jim Harbaugh possibly being kind of on the edge there for Michigan. Michael Penix is off to a great start. Once again, we already went over that. He's looking like a great quarterback right now. Joe Milton needs a big day, though, if Michigan's going to get the win here. Joe Milton's off to also a great start. I'd probably say he's been a big surprise so far. He's put up some good yardage, and he hasn't really thrown any interceptions. But Joe Milton is going to need to play very well here for Michigan if they're going to want to get the win. And it's a crucial game for both teams, obviously, as well. You got Michigan on one side looking like a potential. They were looking like a really good team after their win against Minnesota. and Indiana being a team that's kind of on the edge of being, possibly a national contender. I mean, this is a big game for Indiana too, because this would be a very high quality win if they could beat Michigan here. So, I mean, it's also just a very crucial game for both these teams, especially in the Big Ten East. Obviously, Ohio State is probably your favorite team to win that Big Ten East, but I mean, who knows? Indiana could be a bit of a problem in that division as well. I mean, I don't expect Indiana to win the division by any means, but Indiana has potential to be second in that division if they can get a win here against Michigan and if they can get the momentum still going for their team. Here's my prediction for this game, though. I've got Michigan getting the win in the end by 3. I think Indiana is a great team, and I think Indiana's got a lot of potential in the future, especially with Michael Penix at quarterback. I think he's a great quarterback, but I just think Michigan, coming off of a loss against Michigan State, they're going to be very motivated, I think. I think Michigan's going to carry on their frustrations into this matchup, and I think Michigan will lead for the majority of this game. I think it's going to be close. I think Indiana will hang on for the majority of it, but I've got Michigan getting the win with a final score of 34-31. I just think Michigan, I mean, coming off of a loss like that, I just don't think that they'll take 2 losses in a row. I think Joe Milton improving at the rate that he is, I mean, we could see a big game out of Joe Milton in Michigan. I think the Wolverines are probably the favorite here, in my opinion. I mean, even though they got a bad loss last week to Michigan State, that was only by 3. And honestly, we've also seen a trend this season, which is probably only going to happen in this season, where the road teams have actually been more successful than the home teams. And that could easily be a case in this game as well. I mean, I think last week we actually saw, I think there were 6 games in the Big Ten last week because Nebraska and Wisconsin got canceled. And I think 5 of the 6 games we saw the road teams win, and that was excluding Maryland and Minnesota, which Maryland was the home team in that game and they won. So we actually saw 5 out of 6 road teams win last week in the Big Ten. And I think Michigan, being the team that they are, they're going to go into Indiana and they're going to go into Bloomington and get a big win off of Indiana in the end. But do let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this matchup. Let me know your score predictions, all of that. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Then again, thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed this preview, slap a like on it, subscribe as well. Really helps out the channel. I'd really appreciate that. But as always, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central, and I'll see you all later.